What's going on, y'all? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on? It's your boy, the Curtis York. We're here again. Um, I got a story to tell y'all. I'm going to start with story time, but before I do, let me make sure all of the backdoor things are working the way that they're supposed to. We're firing off on all cylinders and whatnot. So let me verify that. And yep, we're good to go. Perfect. So I'm about to go to the gym, so this is going to be a really short live. If you catch it, cool. If not, the playback will be there as always. So, what I wanted to talk about today is why you should never bash a former employee. Now, I do have to be honest, I was inspired to make this video, and I was inspired to make this video based on a comment in particular. Um, Let me show you. Um, Give me just a second. Let me share my screen because I want to share it and I want to talk about it, and then we will go from there. So, window, there we go. Here it is. I even posted it. So, right here, and this is under the Your Coworkers Are Not Your Friend video, which is doing pretty good. It's not performing as well as the other videos, but it's doing okay. So, someone commented on it and I want to talk about it. So let's see. It says, you have some good points, but the economy goes up and down naturally, just like one's health. You must be new to the construction industry, excuse me. If you are unaware that construction goes down in the winter, learn to budget or get a year round job. A job is a job. People these days feel like they do a favor just looks like they made a typo by showing up to work while playing on their phones the whole time. Most employees are fired for not doing their job or for being obnoxious. The amount of people who are good at their jobs who are fired to make room for unskilled, untrained people to replace them is very small. Now, I didn't think this was a personal attack. I know my previous employers would never do anything like that. Really stand up guy, really great. And everybody at the company was really great. So, I don't think that this was anybody that was well informed or anything like that. So, I think this is probably I'm getting to the point now where I have internet trolls. We finally made it. I guess this is my first troll. Because, like I said, I don't, everybody at the company, while I don't think we were friends or anything like that, I mean, I do have some friends. There's still people there that I talk to right now, till this day. Like I could call them right now and say, hey, what's up? And, it's business as usual. But even the ones that I wasn't necessarily the best of friends with, um, we had a respect and understanding of each other. So I know that this wouldn't be anybody from my former job. So I'm not taking it that that was the case because they're all very, very, very stand-up people. But the reason I made that video in particular, and we'll get there, but before I get there, I want to start with the story. I want to preface something. Story time, guys. Um, I'm about to go to the gym, so we're not going to be here long. Got my water. I am doing the 75 hard challenge right now. I've been wanting to do it for the longest. I just really haven't had time with everything that's been going on. So really excited to be getting back in the gym, focusing on my mental health, my physical health, things like that. And one of the criteria is you have to drink a gallon of water a day. And if you ever drunken a gallon of water in a day, then you know. But anyway, story time. I definitely wanted to tell you guys a story. And it's actually a very recent story. It happened just this week. So let me take a sip of water. My mouth's getting dry. Yeah. So here's the story. So Tuesday this week, as you all know, I was let go from my job. By Wednesday, I had an interview. Um, Thursday, I had an interview. I also got a lot of messages on LinkedIn. Now, I haven't officially posted that I'm looking on LinkedIn, just because I am giving myself some time, and we're in a good position, and it's okay. So I'm just kind of seeing what's out there based on prior relationships. And we'll talk about prior relationships in a second. But, before I actually started going and updating my profile and actually looking, I just wanted to put some feelers out there and see what was going on. And I had two interviews, Wednesday and Thursday. So, two interviews. Now, I'm definitely very grateful for that. I don't want to seem like, I'm entitled or obnoxious, as this person said, because that's, of course, never the case. But I say that because, it's just very lucky, in this economy and in these circumstances, to be able to have interviews regardless of anything is really, really, really a blessing. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm extremely grateful for that. Now, during one of my interviews, not both of them, because one of them, they didn't care. The other one asked, what happened with your previous employer? What was going on? And I told him, I didn't add any personal bias. I didn't add any emotional things or anything like that. I just said, hey, this is what happened. These are the facts. Very great company. I love them. I'm appreciative for everything. They really did a lot for me. They really took a chance with me. And, I'm extremely grateful. It just didn't work out. Things happen. And, after I explained that, the guy said, "Man, I know them. I know them." And, let that sink in for a second. Now, imagine had I just started running off at the mouth and talking about all kind of crazy stuff and just, oh, so and so is this, so and so is that. I didn't like this, I didn't like that, and just saying all types of negative things about my former employer, my former coworkers, and things of that nature. I could have really shot myself in the foot because all the man had to do was pick up the phone and call. And regardless of what happened, whether I was telling the truth, whether I was lying or I was emotional, that would have left a very bad taste in his mouth, just based off of the way that I could have potentially carried or presented myself. So I say that to say, first and foremost, why you never want to bash a former employer is because, you know, it's extremely tacky and distasteful. The last thing you ever want to do is, say negative things or bash your former employer because at the end of the day, that person gave you an opportunity. Whether they came to you first or you went to them, regardless of the fact, they gave you an opportunity and you took that opportunity. So when you took that opportunity, you decided to get in bed with that person. Now, let me say there are some exceptions to the rule. If you find out something that you didn't know or you were misled, and then you go based off of that, you still want to carry yourself in a tactful and kind way, but you definitely want to, make clear you want to make that abundantly clear, like, hey, I was tricked, I was expecting one thing and this is what I got, or you were misled, or you got there and you uncovered some things that made you uncomfortable. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, if oh, why am I showing y'all that? I'm sorry, y'all don't need to see that. Let me stop sharing that. I'll go back to the other screen. Y'all don't want to see my backdoor stuff. But yeah, just let this sit right here so you guys can read it. But anyways, yeah, you don't want to, unless it's a situation where you have your boss is what's the guy's name? Jeffrey Epstein, or your boss is who are some other people like Rupert Murdoch, or these people that have shown to be really, really, really bad people in terms of how they conduct themselves or how they do business. What is the guy's name? He passed away. They made movies about him and everything. I can't think of him. Anyway, a Me Too situation. Yeah, the guy that started Me Too, the guy that was the first call out of Me Too. You know what I'm saying? So, unless you're in a situation like that, then you always want to make sure that you never just go in and you talk bad about your previous employer or anything like that. It's just bad taste, man. It's bad taste. And the reason let's go. I'm gonna jump ahead. The reason why I felt compelled to make this video is because I looked at this and because the situation was so fresh, it could be um misconstrued as if I'm talking about just that situation. Guys, I've been working for a long time. I'm not going to say my age, but I've had a lot of jobs and I've been in a lot of office situations. I've dealt with a lot of politics. And, what I'm talking about is just experiences based off of that, not just my last situation. Because again, everybody there, for the most part, was cool. It's just, these are rules regardless of any situation. You always want to make sure that you're, focused on going to work because ultimately your job is your job. You're there to do a task. And, you always want to make sure that that task is clearly defined and you know exactly what it is. You know what your milestones are. You know what you're supposed to be doing. That way, someone can accurately say, this is what you're doing. This is what you're not doing. If they don't do that, that's always a red flag. But that's just coming from experience, man. Like, just being out here and realizing, what to look for. So, again, my last employer was awesome, man. Really great guy. They did a lot of stuff outside of work that they didn't have to do. You know, um, we have all types of things. He opened a lot of doors, expressed a lot of opportunities. So, for me to bash that or criticize that just because things didn't work out, that would be intellectually dishonest because that's just not true. Sometimes things just don't work out. And that's the case. And that's okay. You can do everything right based off of your perception. And sometimes things still go wrong. That's life. Life is unpredictable. And we love to think that we can control it or we can predict it or we can, determine what's going to happen. But ultimately, there's always just chances that things happen, and there's nothing that you can do when those happen. So the last thing you ever want to do is, bash a former employer, excuse me. Also, you never know who knows who. Like I said, guys, I'm sitting on an interview just expressing what happened from an objective standpoint. There were things that I could have did better. There were things that they could have did better. Ultimately, it just didn't work. Here's what I think, but it is what it is. And then this guy knew them. So again, it's like I could have really shot myself in the foot. And I'm making this video because I don't want anybody else to shoot themselves in the foot. Um, of course, obviously I'm making the video because I was inspired by this, but at the same time, I definitely want to make sure that nobody makes that mistake of ever talking bad about an employer because you don't know who knows who. Especially in certain industries. Like if you live in a certain city or, let's say you live in Atlanta, you know, depending on what level you play at, everybody knows everybody. The construction industry is very small. If you get into residential construction, it's smaller. If you get into custom home building, it's even smaller. There's only a few custom home builders, that play at a certain level. And so, obviously they would know each other. So the last thing you want to do is do something crazy like that and put yourself in a bad position. It's just bad long-term strategy. Next up, you got to remember if you talk bad about somebody, then you got to assume that that person's going to think you're going to talk bad about them the minute that things change, you know. And especially if you're on an interview or something like that, these people are looking at you and they're thinking, this person has so much to say about XYZ. I wonder what they're going to say about me when things go bad or when things go left or when I make a decision that they don't agree with. You know, um, when I was in that meeting and I was being told that I was going to be let go, you know, I didn't argue, I didn't fuss, I didn't complain. I understood. It is what it is. It just didn't make sense financially and it just wasn't a good fit, you know. And that was it. It's nothing personal, it's nothing crazy or anything like that. It just wasn't a good fit. You have a lot of corporations right now that are laying people off by the hundreds and the thousands. I saw somewhere in one of my comments that somebody said that TD Ameritrade or one of the major firms laid off 1,000 people. You know, those people didn't do anything wrong. It just wasn't a good fit. The timing was off. The economic pressures caused that. Um, It just happens, guys. So the last thing you want to do is seem bitter or butthurt or say anything crazy and, you know, bash people who at the end of the day are simply trying to save their companies, they're trying to save their businesses, they're trying to protect their livelihoods, and they're trying to protect the people that still work there. It takes a level of self-awareness, and it also takes a level of empathy to understand what an employer has to go through when they're making that decision. Usually it's not hard for people to let someone go. I could tell that, when we were talking, it wasn't like he was happy or I'm just ready to get this guy out of here. I just can't stand him. It was a very tense situation. I was pretty much stoic about it because, I always think every day, today could be the last day. And, I live my life that way. So, if I lose a job, it's okay. And plus I've been in way worse situations where, I've lost everything. There's been times where I didn't have a car and I had to walk. Like there's been times. So, you know, I know that things will be all right. And I know that things will come out okay on the other side. So, the last thing you want to do is make a long-term decision off of a short-term situation. The last thing you want to do is make a long-term decision off of a short-term situation. I hope that makes sense, you know. And then what you always want to do anyway is keep your personal and professional business separate anyway, which was what that video that this comment is under was talking about. The last thing you want to do is overshare or give too much information because then people will use that against you. That's not an indictment against anyone or anything. That's just, dealing with an office setting. There's so much going on at any given day. There's so many different factors and there's so many different, you know, um, what's the word I want to use? There's so many different circumstances, I guess. That's not the word that I was thinking, but circumstances. There's so many different things that go on throughout the course of a day at the office. The last thing you want to do is inject personal things because that'll distract you from the task at hand. So you definitely want to try to keep that stuff separate. And again, friendships do blossom. Even in that video I said friendships do blossom. There are people that I still keep in touch with at any one of my previous jobs. The opportunities that I've gotten, those interviews, those were based off of previous relationships, working professional relationships. Now imagine had any of those situations I decided to gloat or actually be obnoxious, because anybody that knows me knows that I'm not obnoxious. Clearly this person doesn't know me. And clearly. So, the last thing you want to do is gloat or brag. Like, there's been situations where I left jobs and I've gotten promotions, you know, promotions meaning that I've made more money. You think I went back to my previous manager and just started talking trash or laughing or joking around or picking on them? No, I stayed humble. I kept it professional. Why? Because you never know when you're going to need somebody. Circumstances change. And this is what I know just based off of living life. Circumstances change, man. Like I told y'all, there's been times where I didn't have a car and I was walking to a job. So, there's been times where I couldn't afford to pay bills. So the circumstances could change. The last thing you want to do is think that just because you have a position or you make a certain amount of money, that you're better than someone else, or, you can talk down on people, because all of that stuff can be taken away. All of it. Just like that. You know, this person talked about health, which goes up and down. Your health could go down and you can't work. And then you're going to be dependent on past relationships or whatever the case may be to get back on your feet. So you never want to be obnoxious, which is, again, why I wanted to address this in particular. And I saw a lot of comments. I can make so many videos just based off of the comments that I've seen. And I might actually do that. But this one stood out the most. It's just like, man, the last thing you ever want to do is be obnoxious to anybody or about anything, you know. Now, if someone assumes you're obnoxious or they think that you're obnoxious, but they haven't talked to you about that or they haven't had a conversation with you, that's on them. But a lot of times when you present yourself a certain way, you carry yourself a certain way, people assume things about you, but that doesn't make it true, which is why you almost have to go out your way to explain, like, hey, I'm a down to earth guy. I mean, people might look at, a lot of the material things or what you can see within eyesight of this and think that, I'm an arrogant person, or like this person who clearly doesn't know me or clearly has never worked with me or anything like that would say I'm obnoxious. But Man, I don't care about this stuff. It's stuff. It's literally stuff. All of this stuff, I've had before and I've had to sell it. I have so many sneakers and clothes and shoes that I used to love and adore and thought I'd never have to get rid of. But when times got hard, I had to get rid of that stuff. And, even with that, that's the same thing that you have to look at with these companies. They may love you, they may like you, but at the same time, they may have to get rid of you. Again, when I needed to sell some stuff off to pay a bill, I got to sell it. You know, when somebody has to let you go in order to pay some bills or, save income, then that's what they have to do. It's not a bad thing. It's not a negative thing. It's just a transitional thing. So, ultimately, I hope this video saves someone from making a career altering and life changing negative mistake by burning a bridge that they don't have to burn or exhausting a resource that they don't have to. You know, times are hard out here, guys. There's no independent people out here unless you live on an island by yourself. You depend on other people. So the last thing that you want to do is be obnoxious. And I keep using that word because that's the word that I just see. The last thing you want to do is be obnoxious, man, and or arrogant or egotistical, because all of that stuff can be taken away, man. It can be taken away in a flash. And then you're left and you have to pick up the pieces and figure out what to do. So you always want to try to be as humble as possible. You always want to try to make sure that you're doing right by people. And, by doing that, you never want to bash somebody just because situations and circumstances didn't work out. Unless, like I said, it's a Me Too situation, something illegal happened, you were misled, you were sold a bad bill, you were scammed, you were conned, then the situation changes, it's different. But I'm talking about, things just didn't work out, you know. And they call my construction knowledge into question. Let's talk about that really quick before I sign out. So, I've never said that I was the construction master or I was just the greatest thing to ever hit construction. You know, I know that there's a lot of areas that I need to work on. One thing about me is I am extremely self aware. Like, no one can tell me about me accurately and I not know it unless it's, someone that actually sat down and watched me and they studied my behaviors. But, as far as construction knowledge, I understand that, my career path led me into this industry, first through real estate and investing. Um, I started with an acquisitions and then I moved into dispositions. Acquisition is buying houses, disposition is selling houses. Then eventually I worked my way up to becoming an operations manager for an investment firm. And then that investment firm also had a construction wing. So I was working for them. Then the pandemic happened. I ended up working for a commercial construction firm. I did that. Things didn't work out. I met some amazing people. I still talk to everybody at that firm. We get along very well. And then I moved into the single family rental industry, SFR, which is the main street, not the main street, the Wall Street homes, rental companies, the big brands that are renting out homes that are not your mom and pop landlords. I worked for them. I dealt with construction. It was there when I realized that I needed to understand a higher level of construction. And that's what led me to go down the route of getting my home inspector's license, you know. And this was a suggestion from a manager who I still keep in touch with. I consider him a mentor. He gave me a lot of great advice and a lot of wisdom. And I took that and I applied it. And then I started pursuing my home inspector's license. And then, the company that I was at previously, I realized that, there were a lot of things that I didn't know and I didn't understand. But however, in my role, my specific role, I didn't really have to have a construction knowledge base because I was there to work on the business, at least from my understanding, and I focused on the business and I focused on ways to increase productivity based on that and create new sources of revenue based on that, which I did. And, I definitely made sure I documented that to prove it that, so I believe in documentation and showcasing your work. And so, I documented the things that, I figured that I would be able to do to improve the company, and I did those, um, and then in the process of doing that, I did realize that, hey, there's a lot of gaps in my knowledge as far as construction that I feel like I need to close in. And so what I started doing was I created my own professional development track, I'll call it. I decided that I needed to get my OSHA certification so that I could understand job site safety, which is something that any construction company should have, somebody that's OSHA certified, someone that understands job site safety to prevent injuries and lawsuits and litigation, which saves money. I also decided that I was going to work on my construction document technologist certification, which means that I can read and create construction documents, contracts, things of that nature. Those are things that I felt like I needed to learn. That way I could be a better asset to not only the company, but myself, things that I knew that I needed to work on. Because again, I never claimed that I was, the most resourceful or insightful construction person in the world. I knew that, which is why I created my own plan in order to close that gap. And, these are things that whoever this person is, clearly they don't know me. They're just being a troll, I guess. And obviously, this isn't anyone that I worked with because the people that I worked with knew that I was working on personal things and endeavors in order to make sure that I was being the most efficient as possible. So, I have my construction document technologist that I'm still working on, that's still in the process, is still going on. And then finally, I decided that I wanted to get my construction manager in training certification. Now, if you know construction, you know that there's different certifications that you could get, and in that track of CMIT, construction manager and training, excuse me, there's a track. There's 4 levels of that, and then there's a CMAA, which is a construction manager associate. I don't know. I forgot. What is the CMAA? Let's look it up because I don't want to give you the wrong information. Um, CMAA certification. Let me see. CMAA. Um, don't know. CMAA certification construction. Here we are. I want to go to the actual. Here we go. So yeah, with me knowing that there were gaps in my knowledge personally in construction, I took it upon myself to figure out the best way to overcome those. And so I decided that, I would start at level one, which is the construction manager in training. Now granted, with my credentials and with my MBA, I could have either went directly to level four or the CACM, which is certified associate construction manager, and then worked my way up to the certified construction manager. But because I knew that there were a lot of things that I didn't know and there were a lot of things that I needed to know, I said, I'm going to humble myself, which is again how I know personally that I'm not obnoxious, but clearly that person didn't. You know, I'm going to humble myself down. I'm going to start at level one because if I start at level one, that means I'm not skipping any steps, whether I think I have the knowledge or expertise or not. I'm going to start at the bottom because I want to make sure that I learn everything and I don't miss anything. So, you have level one, and then you have level two, then you have level three, level four, So my goal has been to get this stuff done long before, I was let go because again, I'm self aware, I'm perceptive, and I realize that there's stuff that I need to learn for myself in order for me to truly get to where I want to go. And so, these are things that I was doing on my own time, not on company time or anything like that. This was stuff that I was doing on my own time because I knew that there were things that I needed to know in order to better do my job and to bring more value to the company. So, I gave myself a 2-year process. Now, granted, these levels right here are broken down in 6-month intervals. So you get this one for 6 months, then you can go for this one, and you get this one for 6 months, and then you go to this one, and then you get this one for 6 months, and you move up. And then for this, you have to have 12 months. By then, 6 times 4 is 24 or 2 years. So then you can move up here. And then After that, you move up to this one. So, again, that's why, I keep harping on that obnoxious thing because I really feel like that one bothered me the most out of the whole little tirade that that person went on because I am not obnoxious at all. Again, I'm very self-aware. I'm very perceptive. I know what I need to work on in order to be better to perform what I need to do, and I already had steps in place. It just didn't work out. And, lastly, but not least, before I wrap it up, because again, I got to go to the gym. I'm doing the 75 hard, and I got to make sure I get 2 workouts in every day, in addition to reading 10 pages, eating a diet, and not drinking alcohol. Um, I don't have any ill will towards my previous employer. And I think they know that because, I never had any ill will towards any previous employer. I can call any of them. Even when I left, my previous employer was gracious enough to let me get an additional paycheck, which he did not have to do. They did not have to do that. They could have said, you know what, we're not doing that. But he did. So how crazy would it be for me to sit here and, bash them, you know, when he was able and they were able to do something like that for me? That's crazy. That's unreal, which again, whoever that troll was that made that comment, I want to thank you because you definitely made great content. You gave me a chance to close a gap that people may perceive of me that I feel like I need to address. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. But it's easy to take bits and pieces of things on the internet and try to create narratives that just aren't real and didn't actually happen based off of a clip or anything that you see and take it and make it something else. And, I'd like to think that that person did not watch the full video. And, also, I'd like to take some self accountability. I want this video to show that, I don't think it's a good idea to do stuff like what that person was trying to say that I was doing. I don't think it's a good idea to bash previous employers. I think that's a horrible idea. That's something that I've never done, and that's something that I would never do personally because it just doesn't make sense. But at the same time, you know, the purpose of that video was to help people because a lot of people are entering the workforce and they think that just because somebody checks in on you or they ask how you're feeling, they're your friends, and they aren't, because at the end of the day, if they have to pick between you and them, they're going to pick them, and that's not a bad thing. I even said in the video, animals have self-preservation, businesses have self-preservation. They have to do what they have to do to protect their interests, and if something isn't working, it isn't working. It's never personal. It's business. It's never personal. It's business, you know? And even with that, you have to understand that those two things are separate. And a lot of people confuse that, and a lot of people get things blurred, and a lot of people are heartbroken and disappointed and depressed when things don't work out. So the purpose of that video was to try to prevent that from happening to people. It wasn't necessarily reflective of my most recent circumstance in construction, which again, somebody specified construction. Again, I've worked in various different industries. So, I wasn't just no, I did specifically speak about construction. I can say that, yeah. But things happen, things don't work out. The last thing you ever want to do, guys, if you don't take anything away from this video, if you're still here, then please, please, please don't bash your previous employers, guys. So with that being said, I'm about to go to the gym. I gotta get this stuff done. If you're watching the playback, then I definitely appreciate it. I probably could have made this a video, but I really wanted to make this alive, and that way I can show the information, move it around a little more fluidly. So with that being said, if you like this content, you want to see more content like this, if you find this information valuable, or if you find it entertaining, then like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll be here all week. I don't really have much else to do right now, so expect a lot of videos. Peace.